Hello everybody. In this video you will be learning about object initializers. The agenda of my video will be what are object initializers, why do we use them, how do we use them, and how the object initializer works internally. So let's get straight into it. So first I'll talk about what are object initializers. So object initializer is a way of quickly initializing an object without the need of calling one of its constructors. Next, I'm going to talk about why do we use them. So basically, we use them to avoid creating multiple constructors. So now I'm going to explain what is the problem in using multiple constructors. So in this class, I've declared 3 fields. So if you want to initialize these fields in the object creation itself, then you will have to create a constructor. Now I will deep dive into more complexity. So in this example, I've created 5 constructors with different parameters. You can assume that there are 5 client requirements. In the first requirement, you need to initialize only the roll number field during the object creation. In the second requirement, you have to initialize the roll number and the first name field during the object creation, and so on. To fulfill all these client requirements, you will need to create so many different constructors. And don't you think that this is too messy? Instead of doing this using constructors, you can do it the same thing with an object initializer. So I'll show you that now. So the syntax for creating an object initializer is first you have to create the object of the class. So var or the class name, object name, assignment operator, new keyword, class name, and then instead of instead of a bracket and a semicolon like we used to do, in the next line you should put in curly braces, and then you can assign the values or initialize your fields inside those curly brackets. And here, after the second curly bracket, you should put a semicolon. So if you're using an object initializer, you can initialize only the required fields. So there is a flexibility to initialize only the required fields. So for example, you want to initialize only the first name field, then that is possible. And in another case, you want to initialize only the first name field and the last name field, that is also possible. But in case of a constructor, for example, you want to initialize only the first name field, then you have to create a 1 parameter constructor. And if you want to initialize the first name field and the last name field, then you have to create a 2 parameter constructor, and so on. Now I will explain how the object initializer will work internally. So whatever you assign the values in the object initializer, the compiler will internally create a default constructor and initialize these fields inside that constructor. So if you have initialized only 2 fields in the object initializer, then the compiler will only initialize those 2 fields. For example, I've initialized only my first name and last name in the object initializer. Then the compiler will create the default constructor and initialize those values inside that constructor. So if you want the object initializer to work, then there should not be any constructors created explicitly. So in this case, the compiler will create the default constructor and initialize these fields as I have already explained. Or if there are some constructors in your class and you don't have a parameterless constructor, then you should create a parameterless constructor in order to the constructor to work. I'm sorry, in order for the object initializer to work. Now you may think that this is a little tough, but don't worry, I'll show you all these concepts in action in the Visual Studio demo. So now we'll have the Visual Studio demo. I'll just fire up Visual Studio. So now I've fired up Visual Studio, and inside a solution I've created two projects. One is a console application and the other is a class library. So the core logic will be in the class library, and we'll create the object of the class inside the console application, and I'll just show you how the object initializer will work. So now let's get straight into it. This is my class library. So as I have already explained, I'll create three fields. So int, integer, roll number, access modifier, I'm sorry, okay, semicolon, and this is a public field, so we will use Pascal case for naming it. So next we will declare another field, public string, and this will be for showing the first name of the student. And this too will have Pascal case, semicolon, and then again a field, and this will be for showing the last name of the student. Last name, semicolon. So now we are going to create a constructor and assume that the client requirement is to initialize only the roll number field during the object creation. So in order to do that, I should create a constructor with one parameter. So CTOR tab, and I'll give it a parameter int roll number, and this has Pascal case. And then here we'll initialize our field. So this field roll number equals the roll number parameter, semicolon. Now we are going to create the object in the console application. In order to create an object, you have to add a reference of the project first. So I'll click on add reference and then tick checkbox. Okay. And click on OK. Here you have to add the using keyword. Using and the namespace name, which is student info. I'll copy that and paste that here, semicolon. So now we can create an object of the class here. So var student info, student obj actually, student obj equals new class name. So the class name is student. And instead of putting a bracket and a semicolon, I will, that's still not yet. So here we'll actually pass parameters. So it's asking us for what the roll number is. So I'll put in 21 semicolon. So now let's assume that we have two parameters. So roll number and the first name of the student. To do that, string, I'll just add a parameter, first name, and then here I'll click on enter, and then this first name, capital F, first name equals our parameter first name, semicolon. So now I'll go here back to my console application, 21, and the second parameter, that's the first name. So that's the string, so you have to put in quotation marks, okay, and that's it. Another client requirement can be the first name, the last name, and the roll number of the student. So to do that, we'll have to create one more constructor with 3 parameters. So your code will look very messy and it will be not maintainable. So instead of doing that, we can even use an object initializer. In order to do that, you'll have to remove these parameters and then open a curly bracket. And then after this, you need a semicolon. Click on enter. So here I will show you an error that is here. So the reason for this error is, as I said, we don't have a parameterless constructor, because I said that so in this case there's only one constructor and there's no parameterless constructor. Or else you can even remove this, but I'm not doing that. I'll just create one more parameterless constructor. Okay, so now the error will be gone. Okay, so now we will assign the same values that we assigned in the constructor. So now we don't really require this constructor here, so I can just remove that. Why? Because what we were doing now, the field initialization inside the constructor, we can do it more efficiently inside an object initializer. Now we don't even require this constructor here because there will be no error, because we don't have any other constructors in our class. So the compiler will automatically create a constructor, the default parameterless one. So you see there's no error again. So now we will initialize the field. So you can see that we can see all of these fields when we type in the first letter itself. So roll number equals 21, and then instead of a semicolon I'll put a comma, and then in the next line I can continue this. First name equals, okay, again a comma, and the last name equals Zilla. Now you don't need a semicolon there inside an object initializer. So now if you want to display this information on the console, I'll just go back to my class library. Here we can create a method, public void display info, that is the method name. No parameters are required. In the next line, code braces. So here I'll type in CW chart for console.writeLine. In this line we'll type in name, that is the name of the student, and we will display the full name of the student. So here are the placeholders for the variables, 0 space 1. After the quotation mark, I put a comma, and then this is what should compiler display in the first placeholder. I want to display the first name of the student, and then comma. This is what it should display in this placeholder. First name, and here last name. So now this will get displayed, and now I want a line for the roll number of the student. So roll number, colon, here, again a placeholder, 0, and after the quotation mark, comma, here again it's for displaying what should be inside the placeholder. So this will contain the roll number. So now it's time for us to run our program. Control F5. Oh, I'm sorry, we have not called the method in our console application. So that is the error that we got. So here I'll call the method. So object name dot method name, student obj dot display info, graphic, semicolon. So again, let's run our program. So it displays that on the console. So as I have already explained about how the object initializer works internally, it creates a constructor and initializes all the fields inside that constructor. So using an object initializer is very flexible. If you want, you can only assign the roll number, or else if you want, you can assign only the first name and last name, initialize, or else if you want only the last name or first name and roll number, you can do that too. So we don't have to add anything extra for that as we have done for our constructors. So now you can see that our class is very simple, very clean and readable. Now I hope you're clear about the concept of object initializers. So that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like and share this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more. Goodbye till the next video.